The year was a turning point for Earth. For many centuries, humanity had looked at the stars with curiosity and dreams. Now, for the first time, they were part of something larger. The Galactic Council, a vast assembly of civilizations spread across thousands of worlds, had welcomed Earth into its ranks. The Council was not a single empire but a great table where many voices spoke, argued, and decided how the galaxy would move forward together. For humanity, this was both an honor and a test. Leader Morrow had been chosen as Earth's first representative. He was not the strongest or the richest, but he carried a gift that people trusted. He could speak with honesty, and his words had the weight of sincerity. To the Council, he was a symbol of what humanity could become. To the people of Earth, he was a reminder that even a small world could stand among the giants of the stars. When Morrow walked through the grand halls of the Council station, many eyes followed him. Some eyes were curious, others were cautious, and a few were cold. Humanity's arrival was not celebrated by all. To some alien civilizations, humans were newcomers who had grown too fast, too bold. They had moved from a single blue planet to colonies on moons and orbital stations in only a few generations. Their speed frightened those who had taken thousands of years to rise. In the hidden corners of the Council, whispers spread. Some alien leaders worried that if humanity was not slowed down, they might one day become a rival power. They did not speak these thoughts openly, but their silence in meetings told the truth. Behind closed doors, secret conversations began. A plan was forming, one that would change the course of Earth's future. Morrow did not know of these whispers. His days were filled with speeches, discussions, and learning the complex traditions of the Council. He met with representatives from worlds made of oceans, from planets with skies of fire, and from civilizations so old their histories stretched beyond human imagination. Each meeting was a lesson, each decision a test. Though he often felt small among them, he never allowed doubt to show on his face. He carried Earth's pride with steady hands. Meanwhile, far from the shining chambers, shadowed figures moved in silence. They were not diplomats or leaders but agents trained to end problems before they grew. To them, Morrow was not a symbol of peace but a threat to the balance of power. They believed that by removing him, they could keep humanity weak and divided. They were wrong, but they did not know it yet. Back on Earth, people celebrated their place in the galaxy. News of Morrow's speeches reached cities and villages alike. Children dreamed of traveling to alien worlds, while scientists worked harder than ever, knowing that their discoveries now touched more than one planet. There was hope, excitement, and a sense that humanity's long struggle to survive had finally been rewarded. Yet beneath the joy, unease stirred. Soldiers and commanders knew that not every alien voice was friendly. They trained harder, built stronger defenses, and kept watch on the skies. Engineers worked on new ships, faster and sharper, in case the galaxy was not as welcoming as it seemed. Though they wanted peace, they prepared for something darker. In the Council station, the halls grew heavy with tension. Morrow noticed that some leaders avoided his gaze. He felt a chill when certain conversations ended as soon as he entered a chamber. Still, he kept walking forward, never showing fear. Humanity had fought through storms before. They had endured famine, war, and disaster. They would not bow their heads in the halls of the stars. And so the stage was set. On one side stood humanity, proud but still fragile, guided by a leader who carried their hope. On the other side, hidden in shadows, forces plotted to strike. Neither Earth nor the Council knew how close the storm had come. The gathering storm was silent, but its weight could already be felt. Humanity's first steps into the galaxy were filled with both light and shadow, hope and danger. Leader Morrow believed he was building a bridge between worlds. In truth, he was walking into a trap that would shake Earth to its core and awaken a fire no fleet could put out. The galaxy watched, waiting for the moment when the storm would finally break. The day of the great meeting arrived. The Galactic Council had gathered to hear reports from every corner of the galaxy. Delegates from thousands of worlds filled the grand chamber, their voices rising and falling like waves in a vast sea. For Earth, it was a moment of pride. Leader Morrow would give his first full speech before all members, speaking not only for his planet but also for the colonies now spread among the stars. The chamber was a wonder. It was shaped like a circle, with tier upon tier of seats rising upward, so that no world was hidden from view. At the center stood a single platform where speakers addressed all. Energy lights glowed in the air, filling the space with gentle color. Holograms projected maps of star systems and records of treaties. The room carried both the weight of history and the tension of the present. Morrow stood tall upon the central platform. His hands rested calmly at his sides, though he felt the pressure of 1,000 eyes. He had practiced his words for weeks, not because he wanted them perfect, but because he wanted them true. He spoke about Earth's journey from struggle to survival, about the strength of people who had known hunger, war, and hardship but still dreamed of peace. His voice was steady, and his words were simple. Yet they carried across the chamber with force. Some listened with interest, nodding slowly. Others remained cold and silent. A few whispered to each other, their eyes never leaving Morrow. But for most of the chamber, his speech was powerful. He did not boast of human strength. He spoke of human hope, and that was something every race could understand. When his speech ended, there was a moment of quiet. Then a wave of applause rose from many sections. Some delegates lifted their hands, others clapped their claws or wings against the railing of their seats. The chamber filled with sound. For Earth, it was a moment of honor. For Morrow, it was the proof that his people could stand with dignity among the stars. But in the shadows, danger was already moving. At the edge of the chamber, where the lights did not fully reach, a figure stepped forward. To the untrained eye it looked like a servant or guard, one of many who filled the council halls. But hidden beneath the simple clothing was a weapon, crafted with precision, designed for one purpose alone. The figure moved with calm, as if it had walked these paths many times before. No one noticed. No alarm was raised. Morrow bowed his head to the chamber, preparing to step down from the platform. He did not know that the moment would be his last. The strike came swiftly. A flash of light cut through the chamber, bright and sudden. For an instant no one understood what had happened. The applause stopped, replaced by gasps of shock. Morrow staggered as the energy bolt struck his chest. His hand lifted as if to steady himself, then he fell upon the platform. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in confusion, some fled, others called for guards. The assassin turned to escape, moving with practiced speed. By the time council security reached the center of the hall, the attacker was already gone, swallowed by secret tunnels built into the station long before humans arrived. Morrow's body lay still on the platform. He had spoken of hope only moments before, and now silence filled the chamber. No one rushed to his side. No one raised their voice to accuse the true planners. The council was frozen, and the truth was hidden behind their fear. Back on Earth, the news struck like fire. Screens across the planet showed the image of Morrow's final moment. People wept in homes, on streets, in ships above the skies. Some cried in sorrow, others burned with anger. The man who carried their pride had been taken from them in front of the galaxy itself. The council released statements of regret, but they acted slowly. They promised investigation, but no answers came. Some said the assassin had no master. Others whispered that powerful races had guided the strike. Yet no proof was shared, and no one was punished. To Earth, this silence was more painful than the act itself. In cities and colonies, voices rose. They demanded justice. They demanded truth. But the truth was hidden, and justice was denied. What Earth received instead was only sympathy, and sympathy was not enough. Generals tightened defenses. Engineers pushed their projects faster. The people, though grieving, did not break. They held their sorrow close and turned it into resolve. If the galaxy thought humanity would fall without Morrow, it had misjudged them. His death became more than a wound. It became a spark. In hidden chambers far from Earth, those who had planned the strike watched closely. They saw humanity's anger. They saw the unity rising. And they realized something they had not expected. They had wanted to weaken Earth, to keep it divided and afraid. But by killing Morrow, they had given humanity a reason to stand stronger than ever before. The fatal strike had been delivered. Yet the storm it awakened was only beginning. The weeks after Morrow's death were filled with unrest. Across Earth and its colonies, people mourned but also waited. They waited for the Galactic Council to act, to bring answers, to punish those responsible. But the Council gave little more than gentle words. They promised investigations, yet months passed with no results. To many humans, it became clear that no help would come. While Earth grieved, danger grew closer. In the far reaches of the solar system, ships appeared. At first they were scouts, small and fast, seen only by defense outposts on the edge of space. Then came larger vessels, armed and steady. Soon a fleet gathered, vast enough to block trade routes and silence communication lines. They carried the colors of several alien powers, not united under the Council but united in one purpose. Their leaders sent a message to Earth. The message was cold and sharp. It declared that humanity's growth was a threat to the galaxy. It said that the death of Leader Morrow was not a crime but a necessary action to prevent imbalance. Now, with him gone, Earth was told to surrender its colonies, dismantle its defenses, and accept supervision from stronger races. If humanity refused, the fleet would take action. The news struck Earth like thunder. In cities and towns, people gathered around screens to hear the words. Anger filled their voices. Fear touched their hearts too, but fear did not silence them. They saw clearly what had happened. Morrow had been removed not for peace but to weaken humanity. Now fleets had come to finish the task. The Council tried to appear neutral. Some members called for patience, others suggested compromise. But behind their speeches, no help was offered. Earth realized it stood alone. At once, leaders from every nation of Earth came together. Old rivalries that had lasted centuries were set aside. Commanders sat at the same tables. Engineers shared secrets once locked away. Factories that had built tools of peace now turned to build tools of defense. Humanity, scattered and diverse, became united by necessity. The first clash came near the orbit of Neptune. Human patrol ships, small compared to the alien cruisers, were ordered to hold the line. Their captains knew the odds. The enemy ships carried weapons far more advanced and shields stronger than anything humans had faced. But retreat was not an option. They chose to fight. The battle began with a storm of light. Alien cannons sent bursts of energy across the void. Human ships dodged, weaved, and countered with missiles and railguns. Their weapons were weaker, but their pilots were daring. They flew through narrow paths, turning what should have been open space into a maze of movement. A few alien ships fell, not because of human power but because of human creativity. News of the fight reached Earth quickly. Reports told of pilots who refused to abandon their posts, of crews who disabled enemy ships by targeting weak points no alien commander expected. For every human ship destroyed, the people honored their sacrifice. For every small victory, they cheered. The fleets were overwhelming, but Earth did not bow. Alien leaders grew impatient. They had expected humans to surrender after Morrow's death. They believed fear would break them. Instead, they found resistance that was sharper with every day. The first wave of force had been meant to crush Earth's spirit, but instead it awakened a fire stronger than before. On the moon, new defense stations came online. On Mars, workers labored without rest to prepare ships. In the asteroid belt, secret bases were built, turning rocks into hidden strongholds. Every part of humanity contributed. Farmers sent food, engineers sent machines, scientists shared discoveries once kept private. A sense of unity spread across the colonies like never before. The alien fleet continued to press forward, but their victories were slower than planned. Every battle against humans required more ships, more time, and more care. Humanity, though smaller and weaker in numbers, used the vastness of space as an ally. They laid traps among asteroids, hid ships in shadows, and struck at supply lines. They turned every weakness into a weapon. The Council watched silently. Some members felt sympathy, others felt fear. They whispered to one another in secret halls. If humans could resist even against overwhelming force, what would they become in the future? Would they rise as rivals, or as leaders? None could answer, but all felt unease. Back on Earth, the people understood one truth. They were no longer just defending a planet. They were defending their right to exist in the galaxy. Morrow's death had been the first strike, the fleet's the second. What came next would decide whether humanity remained a small voice or became a roar no one could silence. The first wave of force had arrived, and Earth stood firm. The storm was not over. It had only begun. The first wave of enemy fleets had shaken Earth, but it had not broken them. Instead, it forced humanity to see clearly what must be done. They could not wait for help from the Council. They could not expect mercy from those who had sent the armadas. They had only themselves, their unity, and their will to survive. In the weeks after the first battles, Earth's leaders gathered in hidden command centers. Generals, scientists, and engineers sat around the same tables. Plans were drawn on screens, maps of the solar system filled with red and blue markers. For the first time in history, all nations of Earth worked as one. There were no borders in space, only survival. The people did their part too. Workers in factories built weapons and ships day and night. Families donated resources, some giving up comforts so soldiers could have supplies. On Mars, miners dug deep into the soil to find materials for new engines. On the Moon, great defense turrets were built to guard the skies. Even children helped, carrying parts for engineers or sending messages of support to soldiers. While alien fleets waited at the edges of the system, humanity prepared a counterattack. They knew they could not win by strength alone. The enemy had larger ships, stronger weapons, and endless numbers. But humans had something the enemy did not expect: creativity and daring. They would not fight as others fought. They would strike in ways no alien commander could predict. The first plan was called Operation Silent Path. Small human ships slipped into the asteroid belt, hiding among the rocks. They powered down engines to avoid detection, waiting like hunters in the dark. When the alien fleet moved through the belt, expecting no resistance, the trap was sprung. Hidden charges exploded, scattering asteroids into enemy paths. Human ships darted out, striking weak points with precise shots. Larger alien ships struggled to turn in the narrow spaces, colliding with rocks or each other. By the time the fleet escaped the belt, several of its strongest cruisers were gone. The news of victory spread quickly. Across Earth and the colonies, people cheered. For the first time since Morrow's death, they felt the spark of hope. The enemy was powerful, but not unstoppable. Humanity could fight back. The next strike came near Mars. Engineers had built false communication beacons that sent out signals designed to confuse enemy sensors. Alien ships followed the signals, believing they had found hidden human bases. Instead, they entered an ambush. Human fleets, though smaller, surrounded them with speed and coordination. They attacked in waves, retreating quickly before the enemy could counter. It was not a clean victory. Many human ships were lost, but the aliens retreated, shaken by the tactics. As battles continued, something became clear. Human pilots were willing to take risks no alien dared. They flew dangerously close to enemy ships, slipping into blind spots, striking where shields were weakest. Some sacrificed their ships to disable larger vessels, giving their allies a chance to win. To outsiders, it looked reckless. To humans, it was courage born from necessity. The galaxy began to notice. Reports of human resistance spread through neutral worlds. Some races whispered that perhaps humans were not as fragile as believed. Others grew fearful, worrying that if humans could stand against overwhelming force now, they might one day rise as true rivals. Within the alien fleets, frustration grew. Commanders who once saw humans as easy prey now treated them as serious opponents. They sent spies to study human tactics, but the more they learned, the more confused they became. Humanity did not fight with one pattern. They changed strategies in every battle. What worked once was abandoned the next time. No alien fleet had faced such unpredictability before. On Earth, leaders spoke to the people with voices full of determination. They reminded them that they were fighting not only for survival but also for honor. The death of Morrow had been meant to silence them. Instead, it gave them strength. His name was spoken like a banner, carried into every battle as a promise that humanity would not be erased. As the months passed, the war grew harsher. Cities on Earth felt the strain of constant effort. Colonies worked under heavy pressure. Yet even in hardship, unity held strong. Families supported each other, and communities grew closer. Humanity discovered something within themselves they had forgotten: when united, they could do the impossible. The aliens launched another push toward Earth, sending a fleet larger than before. This time humanity was ready. They used hidden bases on the icy moons of Jupiter, striking from behind as the enemy advanced. Mines were planted along orbital paths, turning space itself into a weapon. When the fleet reached Earth's orbit, it was already damaged and weakened. Human ships swarmed like a storm, forcing the attackers to retreat once more. It was not the end of the war, but it was a turning point. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they would not bow, not even to overwhelming force. Their counterattacks proved they were not victims. They were fighters. The Council could no longer ignore what was happening. Some members grew uneasy, others angry, but none could deny the truth. Humanity was no longer a small voice in the chamber. They were a storm rising against all odds. The galaxy had expected Earth to fall quietly. Instead, humanity struck back, and the sound of their defiance echoed across the stars. The victories of humanity had spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Every strike, every clever tactic, every daring maneuver had shown that Earth would not be easily defeated. On the streets of cities and colonies, people celebrated quietly, but in the council chambers of distant worlds, whispers of worry and anger spread like poison. For some members of the Galactic Council, humanity's success was not a cause for pride or admiration. They had once hoped the human fleet would fall quickly, that the death of leader Morrow would break their spirit, and that the Council would maintain the balance of power. Instead, humans were stronger, smarter, and more united than ever. Secret meetings were held in the shadows. Council members debated, but the debates were not about helping Earth. Instead, some argued that humans must be kept under control at all costs. They feared what humanity might become if left unchecked. Some suggested sending more fleets to crush the rising power, while others recommended limiting trade and resources. No one mentioned fairness. No one spoke of justice. Humanity's struggle had become a problem for those who feared change. On Earth, life continued in tense preparation. Scientists and engineers worked faster than ever, building new ships, weapons, and defenses. Every city, every colony, every base contributed to the effort. But humans were not blind. They had noticed the Council's silence. No fleets came to aid them. No measures were taken against the alien forces attacking them. Earth realized a hard truth: they were standing alone. The betrayal became clear when a fleet larger than any before moved through space toward Earth. Reports indicated that members of the Council had secretly supplied the attackers with information about human bases, fleet movements, and weak points. What had been planned as a test of strength was now a deliberate act to crush humanity while keeping the Council free of blame. Anger swept across the human command centers. Leaders and soldiers alike realized that they could not rely on anyone outside their own world. Their enemies were now more dangerous because they had inside knowledge. Every trap, every plan had been studied. Every hiding place had been mapped. The galaxy had chosen sides, and the Council had chosen to leave humanity to fight alone. Even in betrayal, humans did not falter. They took the knowledge of the enemy and turned it into strategy. Engineers redesigned ships to avoid predictable patterns. Pilots trained to ignore sensor readings and act instinctively. Humans learned to use deception as a weapon, to make every movement unpredictable. They turned weakness into strength, as they always had. The first battle under this new threat came near Saturn's rings. Alien ships, armed with Council intelligence, moved quickly to strike. Human fleets waited, pretending to retreat. When the enemy approached, hidden human batteries in the rings opened fire. Asteroids, mined and converted into moving weapons, smashed into the fleet. Human pilots attacked from angles no one expected. The alien fleet, despite superior numbers, was caught off guard. Ships were destroyed, engines disabled, and the rest forced to retreat. This victory was not just military. It was a statement. Even with betrayal, humanity could fight back. Even with overwhelming force, they could survive. The betrayal of the Council had made them stronger, not weaker. The people of Earth felt a fierce pride. Their leaders had fallen, their allies had abandoned them, yet they had refused to bow. The news reached some neutral worlds in the galaxy. Some whispered admiration for humanity's courage. Others worried, fearing that if humans could survive the Council's betrayal, they might become a power no one could control. The balance of the galaxy was shifting, and it was shifting toward Earth. Leaders on Earth gathered to plan the next steps. The betrayal had made one thing very clear: humanity could trust no one. They would rely only on themselves. No Council decrees, no alien promises, no hope of outside help would guide them. Every plan, every battle, every strategy would come from their own knowledge and courage. Even as humans strengthened, they never forgot Morrow. His vision of unity, his belief in the strength of hope, became a guiding force. The betrayal of the Council only made his words more meaningful. Humanity was no longer just defending a planet. They were defending their right to exist, to grow, and to take their place among the stars. The Council had chosen betrayal, believing it would end the rise of humanity. They had underestimated the resilience of a species forged in struggle. Humans had fought through centuries of hardship, had survived countless disasters, and had learned to rise every time they fell. The betrayal was just another test, one that humanity would pass with courage, strategy, and unity. In every city, every colony, and every fleet, people prepared for what would come next. They knew the battle ahead would be harder than anything before. The Council's betrayal had changed the rules of war. But humans were ready. They would strike, they would fight, and they would survive. And when the galaxy finally saw what humanity could do, it would realize that no betrayal, no overwhelming force, could ever silence the will of Earth. The storm of war was growing. Humanity had faced betrayal, and they had not broken. The galaxy would soon see what it meant to challenge a species that refused to bow. The galaxy had expected Earth to crumble under pressure. The death of Leader Morrow, the overwhelming fleets, and the betrayal of the Galactic Council had seemed like an unstoppable wave. Yet humanity did not falter. Instead, every challenge had strengthened them. Every loss had sharpened their minds, every betrayal had hardened their resolve. Human fleets moved with new purpose. Pilots trained relentlessly, learning to anticipate enemy strategies before they were even executed. Ships were redesigned for speed, maneuverability, and surprise attacks. Engineers worked tirelessly to create new weapons that could strike where alien shields were weakest. The colonies became centers of innovation, each contributing in ways that had never been seen before. The first victories of the new campaign came from unexpected angles. Small squadrons of human fighters appeared where the enemy least expected them, striking quickly and vanishing into asteroid fields. Alien commanders began to realize that human tactics could not be predicted. They had assumed humans were reactive, but humans were learning faster than they could imagine. Each engagement taught them something new, and they adapted almost instantly. One of the most daring operations took place near Jupiter. The aliens had established a forward base, confident it was protected by layers of patrols and sensors. A human fleet approached silently, disguised by interference signals that mimicked normal traffic in the system. As they drew close, hidden weapons inside the moons of Jupiter activated, targeting the base's power generators and communications. Within moments, the alien defenses were crippled, and human ships attacked, leaving the enemy fleet scattered and confused. News of these victories spread quickly. Across the colonies, people cheered. Farmers, workers, scientists, and soldiers all felt the impact of their combined effort. Even civilians, who had never held a weapon, understood that humanity was no longer the species the galaxy thought it was. They were fighters, innovators, and survivors. Their courage inspired hope, not only on Earth but among neutral worlds that watched the conflict unfold. Alien commanders grew frustrated. The strategies that had once worked failed repeatedly. They could not predict human movements, could not control engagements, and could not contain the rising spirit of Earth's people. Some began to doubt the wisdom of the war itself. Why fight a species that refused to surrender even when heavily outnumbered? Reports of human successes reached the Council, causing tension and alarm among those who had once betrayed Earth. Back on Earth, leaders encouraged their people to continue the fight with courage and wisdom. They emphasized unity, reminding every soldier, pilot, and citizen that survival depended on cooperation. Messages from pilots in battle told stories of bravery, of risking everything for the sake of their planet and their people. These stories traveled fast, inspiring others to do their part. Human ingenuity became the greatest weapon in the galaxy. New shields were developed that could adapt to incoming fire, while weapons were engineered to exploit specific weaknesses in alien ships. Pilots shared lessons learned from each encounter, creating a growing library of strategies. Earth scientists worked on energy systems and propulsion that gave their ships speed and agility unmatched by the alien forces. Every battle became a step forward. Each victory, no matter how small, taught humans something critical about the enemy. Alien fleets that had once overwhelmed them now hesitated, unsure how to respond. They realized that underestimating humans was no longer an option. Humanity's combination of courage, adaptability, and teamwork made them a force unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Meanwhile, the Council watched uneasily. Some members whispered in secret chambers that the humans might not be contained. Some feared that Earth's rise would upset the balance of power. Others, secretly inspired, wondered if it was time to reconsider their positions. The betrayal that had seemed so clever was now backfiring. Humans were learning and growing stronger every day. In the colonies, people began to see a new reality. They understood that this was no longer a fight for survival alone. Humanity had become a symbol of defiance, of resilience, of hope. Ships launched from distant colonies with confidence, knowing that every strike they made mattered. Pilots faced larger fleets without fear, engineers created technology that once seemed impossible, and citizens supported them with unwavering determination. As the tide of battle shifted, humans began to plan larger operations. They no longer reacted to attacks but took the fight to the enemy. Every move was calculated, every decision informed by lessons learned. The aliens had expected humanity to bow, but instead, they found themselves facing an opponent that adapted faster than they could anticipate. Humanity had turned the tide. The storm that had once threatened to sweep them away was now bending to their will. The galaxy began to understand that Earth was no longer a small, fragile world. It was a force to be reckoned with. The future battles would be harder, but humanity had proven that when united, they could face any challenge. And so, as the stars shimmered above, human fleets moved forward with courage. The first victories had come, and now the path to true strength was open. Humanity was no longer waiting for help. They were the rising force, the tide turning in the galaxy, and no power could stop their determination. The final assault arrived sooner than anyone expected. The alien armada, larger and stronger than ever, advanced toward Earth with the determination of a force that had never been denied. It was the moment the galaxy had believed would end humanity. The fleets that had once threatened defeat now moved with precision, certain that nothing could stop them. But humanity had changed. The lessons learned from betrayal, loss, and endless struggle had shaped them into a force unlike any other. Ships flew in perfect coordination, pilots followed daring strategies, and every soldier knew that they fought not only for survival but for the honor of their world. Citizens worked tirelessly behind the scenes, maintaining supply lines, repairing damaged vessels, and keeping communication channels open. Every part of humanity, from the smallest village to the largest colony, contributed to the defense. When the first clash occurred in Earth's orbit, the alien fleet was shocked. Humans attacked from unexpected angles, using tactics they had never encountered before. Mines hidden in asteroid belts, satellites disguised as debris, and energy pulses aimed at weak points crippled key vessels. Even with superior numbers, the Armada struggled against the adaptability and creativity of Earth's forces. The battle raged for hours, stretching across the solar system. Human pilots risked their lives, flying close to enemy ships to deliver precise strikes. Engineers on board ships recalibrated weapons in real time, creating opportunities that no alien commander had anticipated. Small victories accumulated, and slowly, the tide of battle began to shift. On the surface of Earth, people watched the conflict unfold. Screens displayed live feeds from battles in orbit. Children clutched their parents' hands, and soldiers on training drills stopped to observe. Each success brought hope, each loss reminded them of the cost. Yet through it all, no one lost faith. Humanity had survived worse, and now they faced the ultimate challenge with courage. The alien armada attempted to regroup and strike a decisive blow. They concentrated their attacks on human capital ships, aiming to break the backbone of Earth's defense. But human forces had anticipated this move. Using hidden bases in the outer planets and cleverly disguised fleets, they created decoys and traps. Ships that appeared weak drew enemy fire, while real forces struck from behind and above. Entire cruisers were disabled without the humans suffering a single critical loss. The battle became a test of endurance and will. Humans fought with determination, but they also used intelligence and strategy. Every engagement taught them more about their enemy's weaknesses. Every maneuver demonstrated the power of unity. The alien commanders began to realize that no single tactic could defeat a species so determined, so resourceful, and so willing to sacrifice for one another. By the second day of fighting, the alien fleet had lost significant numbers. Their confidence began to waver. Messages from command grew urgent, as commanders struggled to maintain order. Reports of human ingenuity and courage reached worlds far from Earth, inspiring whispers of awe and concern. Some neutral species began to question their alliances and their assumptions about humanity. On Earth, leaders addressed their people. They spoke not of fear or defeat but of hope and pride. They reminded everyone that the struggle was not just military but symbolic. Humanity was showing the galaxy that no force could crush the spirit of a united people. The death of Morrow, the betrayal of the Council, and the overwhelming odds were all part of the journey that had strengthened them. As the battle continued, the final phase began. Human fleets executed a coordinated attack across multiple fronts. Alien forces were divided, their ships overwhelmed and disoriented. Hidden weapons launched from moons and distant colonies struck critical points. Fighters swooped in to deliver the final blows, and alien commanders were forced to retreat. One by one, the great vessels of the Armada fell, leaving only a few scattered ships to flee back into deep space. The victory was hard-won, but it was complete. Humanity had survived the impossible. The alien forces that had come to conquer were broken, retreating into the darkness from which they had emerged. Earth's people cheered, not just for survival, but for triumph, for proof that courage, unity, and determination could overcome any force. The Galactic Council could no longer ignore humanity. Members who had once betrayed or doubted Earth now recognized the strength of a species that refused to bow. Some were afraid, some were in awe, and some understood that the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer a small voice among the stars. They were a power to be reckoned with, a force that would shape the future of countless worlds. In the aftermath, humanity did not seek vengeance. Instead, they rebuilt, strengthened alliances, and prepared for the next chapter of exploration. They remembered Morrow and honored his vision, knowing that his leadership had been the spark that united them. The people of Earth had faced overwhelming force and survived. They had been tested by betrayal and adversity, and they had emerged victorious. Humanity had entered the galaxy as a newcomer. Now they stood as a rising force, proud and unyielding, ready to claim their place among the stars. The dawn of a new era had come, and with it, the promise that humanity would never again be underestimated.